Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I am out in the torch shop making another marble today, and today the word is feather. I'm going to do a marble with a feather technique that is an ancient glassworking technique, really. And I looked through all my videos and I can't believe it, but I've never done it before. So today's the day. We're going to get into it and see if we can show some layering that includes some feathering. So I'm jumping right into the main construction clear rod, and we're going to build up an egg shape here, and we're going to do a first interior layer is going to be a silver fume, I think. A little bit, just to add some depth. But the star of today's video is the trusty old butter knife that I've had forever, and it has a very little bit of serrated edging on it, and I've used it many times because of that serrated feature. Back when I made soft glass fish beads, I used that to kind of form the mouth and kind of made a little impression of teeth. That was always kind of fun to point out to people their little smiley face with teeth in them. And that was all just due to the little, which they're pretty worn down, so you won't have quite the toothy effect. And in this marble, I don't care about that. That's not what I'm trying to do. But you'll see how this works out. So sure appreciate everybody coming along to check these videos out. Keep me company out here in the torch shop while I've got someone to talk to. Talk with? I don't get to hear you very much though. You gotta drop comments in the videos. This is mid-July when I'm doing this marble, and here in Montana, summertime, it's warming up. We'll get in the high 80s, pushing 90 degrees today. Pretty normal summer weather here, I guess, right now. Yesterday we were up, made our semi, kind of monthly, or maybe every other month, run up to Missoula and hit Costco. Been a Costco member since '86, when the company I worked for back in the day gave us all the employees an opportunity to be a Costco member. As they started out, it was just for business people who owned a business. And then that didn't really last very long, and then they changed to where, at least in Washington, where they started, the deal was to avoid the sales tax if you were going to buy things for your restaurant or your business or whatever, and resell or use that product in your business. Then you didn't really want to pay sales tax on it. And then it got to be, I think it was Tuesdays was business only. There was no sales tax charged on Tuesdays, but you had to you had to swear that everything you were buying was going to be a supply or consumable or whatever for resale or in support of your business. That went on for quite a few years. And for a long time they kind of had that split. You had a business membership or you had a Gold Star or whatever they call it. They still call it their basic membership. It was quite the phenomenon when it started out. Kirkland, Washington. And I was working just down the road in Redmond, Washington. And years later, we were somehow, I don't know, family was together, and I was in the car with my brother-in-law, and as we drove by Costco, he referred to it as Our Lady of Continuous Consumption, I think is what he said. Something like that. But that original Kirkland Costco, I can remember when they had to extend the parking lot across the old entrance road, original entrance road. So if you had to park in the back 40 there, it was a long haul to push your cart out to your car. Then they moved the food court to the outside and went through a lot of changes. Haven't been that store in a long time. Okay, we're getting a pretty good sized gather built up here. I did some poking around and trying to just let it settle into a egg shape here. Using a little heat and gravity to try and kind of smooth this out and draw this end out a little. So I thought I'd just start with this shape to do the fuming layer, and then we'll convert that into our basic cone shape we're going to start with. Okay, so while this glass is pretty warm, I'm going to go ahead and flash it with some silver. Cook that silver a little bit. And then we're going to do some bands of clear to trap some silver. So this may or may not show up as much. You don't want it to be too strong or it'll obscure the pattern. So we're only going to do four stripes here, so there's going to be a lot of open space anyway. Okay, from here, going to burn out some of that silver, melt in these bands of clear. And then as we shape this up, we're going to torque on this as we're creating this cone shape. We're giving it some force on here to spin it. Just a light bit of silver fume. Like I say, this may or may not really show up as much. Just thought I'd give it a try and add a little seasoning to the mix. And give it some twist. Okay, then we're going to do some stripes of color. I've got some Opaque Aqua, good stable color, and then I've got this Hyacinth, which is not always a super friendly color to work with, but kind of preheated a section of this before I went to pull it out. And this is kind of thick stringer. And we want this to be kind of spaced out. So there's a little window to see the gold fume that's going to be in the background, if all goes well. So then we'll do our aqua in between there. Like I say, trying to leave a window. We don't want this to fill in. See that Hyacinth has got some bubbles going on. Okay, come out here to the end. Let's see. Okay, I want to melt those in, flatten this out. It's just a little marver action. Okay, this is going to be a pretty simple marble, really. But this was an old idea of adding color lines in a bead, soft glass bead, way back in the day. And the feather technique is often done with a pick, where you rake these lines. But this butter knife, we'll try it. This is a little bit larger area than and what I used to use it for. But the idea to heat up a section and we drag it. So this little serrated edge just helps with the dragging action. So you want the base glass to be pretty hot to where it will flow. I say this is a technique I mostly ever did with soft glass. It's a little different with borosilicate glass. Okay, so now we got a few lines dragging out. Then come back and go the other direction. This direction I can get a little bit more of a push going on. And kind of dig in and push these in. Go back into previously done lines. That's kind of sketch. I'm not trying to do that too much. So I believe I got them all. Zip, 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 zip. So that's it. That's a very old technique to get a feathered pattern. Now we're just going to let this melt together. Some people might accomplish a similar technique instead of using a pick, but using a clear glass rod basically, and if you get the surface hot enough you can drag through it with a glass rod. Alright, let this settle down. It's not quite as well defined as I would like to see it. Try dragging these out again. You can kind of keep tweaking the look if you want. Okay. Yeah, soft glass just responds a lot differently, smooths out a lot faster. Borosilicate glass stays pretty stiff and doesn't manipulate nearly as easily. So it's a little softer look than I'd like to see, but it's got the basic idea going on. And off this end, we'll pull this out. Okay, well, kind of so-so on this pattern. It's not as crisp as I'd like to see. It's a little different looking than if you rake it with a tungsten pick. You're going to get more distinctive look to it, but it's going to be different. And you know, you got to think this is a technique that's been used forever on the surface, and this you're going to see the other side of it. So that's why I chose this butter knife way to do things, so I think it would work a little better for what I'm trying to do. Okay, and behind this, so all the little in-between space is going to be gold fume. So we'll see if we can get this guy going. Gold is being shy here. Okay, then to trap that gold fume and make a nice shiny background, I'm going to use some basic jet black. And to carefully lay down this black glass onto that gold. Suffer a few anomalies like broken stringer. Not sure it broke there, but I'm pushing on it a little bit. Most glass work is done with a very gentle feel. You don't do a lot of pushing and torquing things around, but sometimes you do. And sometimes you have to just kind of remind yourself to just let the glass flow. Just be gentle. Don't be in a big hurry. Don't try to force it. Because usually when you're in a big hurry and trying to force it, you actually will going to take longer to get it done. It's a funny phenomena, but sometimes consciously slowing down with glass actually makes your work process more efficient. And we're trying to be kind of stress-free today in this process. Trying to just be accepting of it. It is what it is. Move on. Yeah, at this point, the only thing that I keep sort of thinking about is the initial silver fume might have just been too light. I was concerned about putting too much fume on that layer and obscuring things. I wanted just some cloudy, wispy, cloudy effect. So we'll see how that turns out. That's pretty hard to know until actually it comes out of the kiln the next day. A lot of things could affect how that silver fume works out. And the kiln cycle will definitely have a factor in that. Although deep encased effects like that are very different than trying to influence silver striking effects in the kiln. So this, once again, is just kind of a pattern, a technique. Like I say, I used to use it, not a lot, but it's been a long time since I was making soft glass beads. So this kind of an effect, I literally can't remember the last time I ever did it. But this will be a whimsical, hopefully a happy marble. Alright, it's all sealed up in there. And then we're going to do some silver fume on the back side. Maybe. Part of it, I think, jumped out. Alrighty. Yep. A little spot of silver took a bounce and landed right over here. Mark the spot. Okay, now we're going to move on to filling in the back. Well, I hope anyone that's tuned in and hanging out with this process, hope things are going good in your world. We always wish you the very best. Our whole process, Ray and I are making artwork, is to hopefully bring some smiles to people's face and joy to their life, whether they own a piece or just look at artwork online or see other people's collections. In the artist community years ago, there was well, I remember years ago, having some discussion amongst fellow artists of whether art was something that people truly needed, because you tend to have a belief that this is a luxury or sort of an extra. I definitely subscribe to the concept that things produced by human hands, whether it's a cutting board or a knife or a letter opener or painting on the wall, sculpture, whatever it may be, that appreciation of hands-on care and attention that went into making something, I think it's meaningful. And I remember many years ago going to, well, not to pick on anybody, but a local bead shop it happened to be, and they had pendants, glass pendants. It was the oddest thing, because looking at those from a technical standpoint, I could say, well, the person that made this knew what they were doing. Definitely. They took attention to detail and executed it pretty darn well, and yet somehow it just felt empty. They didn't put their soul into it. You could tell it was done by somebody in a factory setting where they maybe weren't really all that happy doing what they were doing. Maybe they were, but they just lacked, they were working under orders, under instructions, like, this is what you need to make today. And I just didn't see there was no heart to it. There was no sense of a connection to the person that actually made it. And I puzzled with that, because I thought, well, I'm just being biased, I don't know, it's just me being weird. But I've seen that effect very many times in artwork. I see some things that are just very moving, really connect to the artist or to times and the circumstance that was created. And other things that are just kind of like, well, they went through the motions, but it wasn't very inspired and didn't really convey anything. So anyway, our goal is to try and put some of our own energy into everything we do. And I hope that continues on for people that eventually acquire these pieces, and I hope that energy keeps resonating for years and years to come. So I do believe art is a necessity. It doesn't have to be expensive. You don't need to impress anybody else. As long as it speaks to you and you gain something out of it. That's why nature is so important. Just even a house plant, anything that nature has created. It's like nature puts heart into everything nature creates. I don't mean to run afoul of anybody's spiritual or religious beliefs, but the natural order produces incredible things. The flowers, the trees, the grass, whatever it is. The animals, the birds, the bees. So we're blessed to live in a place that we can just step out the door and take a breath of pretty clean air most of the time. This is fire season. And listen to the birds and the bees and the critters. Watch the bunny rabbit hopping around the yard. Of course, our chickens are endless entertainment. And you just witness their connection to dinosaurs. Sometimes they just look like little dinosaurs. They can be very primitive looking sometimes. Need another glass stick here. I want my workpiece to go completely wonky, so try and keep it rotating a little bit. Okay, well, let's see what we can come up with here. Melt this down. just seems like you can't get enough heat going. Little bright end point sticking out. Just take the time to take a sip of my mug. It's got our dragons on it, his and her dragons on this mug, like the shirt I'm wearing. Keep going with this until it seems a little chaotic. I don't normally do any shaping at this stage. I usually just kind of let this form up on its own. Okay, that should work for the next phase of decorating the back side of the marble. And today, on the back side, we're doing, looks like maybe we've got some mint and some unobtanium and some green, Glasstronics green, dark green. Yeah, some bubbles there. We'll do our unobtanium. Okay, and then this dark green. Oh, poop. Thin spot here, and it isn't really flowing as easily as I thought it would, so I was kind of pushing on it. Get her there. Okay. Whew. Blast this thing for a little minute. We're going to let it chill out before we can do our raking. That interior is going to have a lot of very shiny gold. Should be pretty sweet. Alright, let's give her a go. One more leaf. A little tungsten pick. The whole pin vise there is getting pretty toasty. Okay. Push in the end here. Keep that vortex point. I'll just let this kind of sit there in the marble mold along this edge that sort of pushed out. Sometimes have a smaller mold and get the whole curvature thing going on. Okay, now we need to get this to settle down so we can put our punty on. Plenty toasty now. Last time that roller was kind of not quite the right orientation. And before we go into this, we need to get our kind of flame selected. start working on condensing this front lens, just kind of allow the glass to flow on its own without doing much torquing or pushing. Where it's just kind of too much heat to deal with, so just let the marble do its thing and things a chance to kind of stabilize, and then hit it again. Pushing out that diameter, the transition line between the color and the clear is kind of swelled outwards. And I just need a bit more glass focused on the dome on the front. Okay, about there, and then we can go to our roller. Kind of pinch it down. Okay, now we can start peeling off the edge and the outside glass. round and round. Takes a little time to do this step. Keep skimming off this outer layer. Alright, I'm going to change up some place to rest my arm here at a little different angle. So this isn't just a blind operation. I can see the glass that I want to get rid of. It's glowing a different temperature, a different color. Sometimes we add more mess than we take off. Using a little bit of gravity, tilting it up into the flame. Fast rotation, moving that glass a little more aggressively. I'm going to hit it in the L arbor here for rotation. wear that up. I'm going to direct that heat to go inside the interior of the marble. A lot of heat will transfer just kind of by the infrared energy through the clear glass. Okay, now we're going to do a little shaping here. Which is pretty much the starting point for the curvature and the size. We'll do another punty swap. Okay, we're happy with the way that punty is centered on that front dome. We start paying more attention to our right hand than our left hand. Let the left side sort of wobble around. Put that free. Keep rotating all the way through that transition. Punty is still pretty soft. So give this a little bump. I really want little bits of glass sticking out with a whole lot of flame where you burn and boil it. You might be wondering why I would call the interior a feather pattern and the exterior, I don't consider that a feather pattern. It's more of a paisley pattern. But you can call it a feather pattern either way. I just thought I'd use my old butter knife and see if it would still do the trick. Okay, first step in the marble mold is going to level. This is kind of a funky shape there, but trying to preserve the focal point of the vortex. And push the the colored side, the pattern side, push that glass up to the division line circumference. Okay, next run in the puntee, we're trying to be gentle, but we're going to smooth out these lumpy bumps. Using a fair bit of force at this point. And then I get to where it's, to me, I can kind of see a bit of an apple shape. I was pushing on it hard, so that front lens, it's kind of pushed in a little bit. So you just kind of hang this down and let that clear front pull out a little bit, that puntee pull out. Now when we go into the puntee mold, this point we're pretty much getting the majority of the shape actually done. And that very front point is still flat. The circumference still has a dip in it. Usually I don't try and get the entire marble this hot, but right now at this phase we're trying to get the most we can out of getting the full shape done. And it's a little bit of a tug of war. So it gets kind of sloppy on the puntee there. Kind of little itty bitty increments at this point. Still having a hard time getting that one last little gap closed up. Being very stubborn. I may have to just move forward and try and heal up this edge from the other angle, from the other side. It's pretty close. Alright, well, we're going to move on. So at this point, we're going to try and get the core to cool down a little bit. We've got our full shape pretty close. So any more work we're going to just do on the very outer layer. First step will be the flame polish. So I'm just trying to get a good heat here. Skip the mold at this point. Trying to shape up this puntee, because this will be the last puntee. So that's a weak puntee connection. So we'll be pretty gentle here, kind of on the clock to get this finished. Dig out that connection. And there's kind of maybe some foreign glass right there. Okay, now we're going to gently go in the marble mold from the back side first. Drop in and keep rotating the same direction. Okay, I think we got the shape filled out. Now it's just a matter of smoothing things up. Alright, hold it up to our light. Make sure we're pretty clean on our surface. Well, this is a fun marble. Nothing super fantabulous, I don't think, but yeah, I think that I'm surprised that silver fume to start with. I don't really see it, but maybe it'll show up a little bit. So we got to play with some glass today and make a cool marble. It's a good day when I can be out in the pork shop making a marble and having you guys along for the ride. I sure appreciate you all. I think that'll get this going. Don't really want to touch it with cold, wet tweezers at this point. Yeah, pretty cool. Alrighty guys, this one's ready for the kiln. And I'm ready for a little break, cool down. So we wish you all the very best. Take care of yourselves, take care of your family and friends and people around you, people you work with. Be kind. We'll catch you on another adventure, another day. Until then, take care guys. See you later.